I wanted to do this live stream, and this is going to go off of the video that I did before when I was talking about why you should live in your truck. I got a vlog that I'm editing right now. The vlog will be out. But essentially, I wanted to get into this. I wasn't able to get into, how America really brainwashed the American public to make you think that you need certain things, okay? To whereas when I come out and I tell people to live in the truck, people get really defensive to the point where they do like personal attacks. When, in that video, I don't think I was personally attacking anyone. I think I was just speaking on the fact that, when people say living in a truck, living in a semi truck, that's no way to live, I understand what they're saying because I said those things for a few years too. And it took me a long time to really take a hard look at trucking and really to listen. Like I said, I really heard what Trucker Brown had to say in a video that he did like 6 or 7 years ago, right? And him too, he was saying, you could live in the truck for 1 to 2 years and stack up your money and get ahead. Well, what if we looked at it even like more different than just that? What if we looked at the trucking industry as like, you know what? Maybe, sorry for the dogs, dude. Like where I stay in the trenches, homie. Like I stay in the I stay in the hood, dude. And where I live, dude, there's hella like stray dogs running around. Like there's these two little dogs that are running around terrorizing all the neighbors' dogs in their yards. So they're barking and shit, you know. But so let's get back into this, right? Disregard the dogs. Like I said, I stay in the hood, dude. There's a lot of dogs out here. So if we took what Trucker Brown said, live in the truck for 1 to 2 years and stack up your money. That's what you hear not just Trucker Brown say, but a lot of truck drivers say that, right? They say, "Oh, live in the truck for a short amount of time and then get out and then go do what you want to do and you'll be like way ahead of people." So what if we took that idea and flipped it on its head or just added onto it? We're not really flipping it on its head, just added onto it. Be like, you know what? Who says it only has to be 1 to 2 years? And not be an owner operator. I'm not pushing being an owner operator. Me, I think being an owner operator, that market is way too like just flimsy and not really like it's just not really reliable. Things happen in that market, and most people who go into owner operating as a truck driver, they end up going out of business. I'm talking about just being a company driver, laying back, kicking back in the seat. You're working hard. You're making your deliveries on time. You're being a truck driver, right? But instead of just looking at it for like 1 to 2 years living in the truck and then you go local, that's what you hear most truck drivers say. And, I want to get into the reasoning why people do that, why people have this thought that, trucking is something that you get in and out of. And I want to like that pattern of thinking and really change your mind, okay? And it doesn't matter if you're young, middle-aged, hell, or even old, whether you're divorced or single, or whether you're a man or a woman. If you have a CDL, Class A, I want you to hear me out, okay? So the reason why we all want and think, because it's really a thought that we have to go local, because I fell into this. You've seen it for the past 2.5 years. I fell into this trap of like, okay, just the same as everyone else, right? This is what I did. I stood at CR England for 2.5 years. I lived in the truck. Then I tried to go local. It didn't work. What I found out is in my market in Northern California, in the Bay Area, from the Central Valley 209, I'm between the 209 and the East Bay 510, right? That's my zone, right? Like that's home for me, right? Northern California. God damn, dude. This fucking crackhead's just ruining the stream right now. There's this little dog just chasing him at his ankles, dude. Like I said, I stay in the hood, dude. There's this fucking get out of here, dude. Fucking dog. All right. So the reason why I did that is because I want what everyone else wants. I want to have a good paying job that's going to provide for me to live in a house or an apartment, to, one day get married, have kids, start a family. And, I'm not knocking that at all. What I think is going on is I think a lot of people are thinking that I'm knocking, being married and having kids and all that, the like traditional American dream. I'm not knocking it. Well, I'm just trying to give you an alternative perspective, and I'm not saying don't do those things. But what I'm trying to tell you is this. Ultimately, what it comes down to is this. If you want to be a part of the top 1%, but you're not born into the top 1%, you're born like everyone else, because there's really no more middle class in America, especially in like the places where people mainly live. California, Texas, Nevada, Arizona, hell, even Idaho, Utah. Like, a lot of the country, besides a few really poor states in the middle and the South, like Mississippi, Ohio. Ohio's even getting expensive in some places, believe it or not. Michigan, right? Like the few states that you hear about where you could still buy a house, like West Virginia, for like, you could buy a house for like 10 grand. You know what I mean? And it might not even need that many upgrades. It might have knob and tube wiring, but outside of these few states, the rest of the country is just getting really expensive. It is. So if you want to be a part of the top 1%, but you're not born into the top 1%, you're born poor like everyone else. Well, if you want what everyone else doesn't have, you want to do better than everyone else, you have to really, this is the reality of our country these days, dude. You have to really do things that the masses don't want to do. Look at that video I did. I told people, look at trucking the same way a nurse looks at nursing, a construction worker looks at construction work, a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, any other profession looks at their job. People go into these professions, these lines of work, and they say, you know what, I'm going to stay in this line of work for 25 to 30 years, maybe 35 years, and then I'm going to retire. I'm going to have my 401k or my pension and my 401k or whatever, and I'm going to retire. By then, my house will be paid off, and I'll have Social Security plus whatever I have saved up in savings in my 401k. And I'm going to retire. And I'm telling you, dude, that's not going to work these days. It's not. What's going to happen, what's already happening, what's going on in California is what's going to happen in the rest of the country as we get older. Okay, I'm in my 30s. If you're in your 20s, 30s, hell, even 40s right now, in the next 15 to 20 years moving forward, California is going to be the future of the United States. In the United States, you're either going to be very rich or very poor, and there's not going to be no more middle class. People that are working, they're going to be the working poor. In a lot of the places, they already are the working poor. And what keeps them in the working poor is this indoctrination that's really brought onto you by the elites, by the top 1%. They take things like the everyday needs of people, food, water, shelter, healthcare, right? Just the basic things that we need to live life as human beings. They take these like four main needs: food, water, shelter, healthcare, and they find a way to profit off of those models, off of those needs. All right. That's your 30-year mortgage, right? That's your grocery shopping, like food. That's your groceries. Inflation that everyone's complaining about. Shelter, that's your 30-year fixed mortgage at a high interest rate. Let's just be honest, dude. These houses are they're unattainable for most people. Dude, Texas, it's not that different from California these days. Texas was like the place that you go to if you really want to live the American dream of what's left of it. It's a land where you could get a good job in like the oil fields or the oil and gas industry, and you can make a lot of money. You don't even have to work on a rig. You could do something even just like being a security guard at an oil plant and still make a really good salary, right? If you're like, there's a lot of industry in Texas, and the thing that drew people to Texas was that it was cheap. Not no more. Not no more. And that's the same for Phoenix, Nevada, Idaho, a lot of Florida, right? The whole country, if you really look at it, the whole country is slowly starting to turn into California, where you have the ultra rich and the ultra poor. God damn, dude. These fucking dogs are ruining life right now. Fuck. Dogs are ruining my stream, dude. There's this little fucking brat right here. Dude, I've been telling that neighbor to get his dog. He's hold on. He's chasing that dude, man. Go on out. I don't know why they don't take care of their dog, dude. They got that dog and they just let him run the streets. Damn, that's so annoying, dude. He was literally about to bite that dude that was just walking by. Most of the country's turning into California, okay? And look, what's going to happen is when we get older, when we get to be in our 60s and 70s, like our parents' age right now, right? Our parents' and grandparents' ages, you're going to have income inequality that you've never seen before. Well, you've seen it. You see it in California. You're literally going to have old people, our generation now, the millennials. When we get to be in our elderly years, we're going to be homeless living out of cars on the street, right? Like van life and all that, that's going to become like normalized to the point where they're really going to have to start giving some leniency on van life because people are just going to be living out of their vehicles. You're going to see a lot of people taking their Social Security and trying to go to other countries to the point where it's going to become a problem of like outward migration out of the United States from the poor. It's just going to be like where there's these elites and everyone else is going to be dirt poor, right? So if you don't want to end up like that, because that's definitely the future, you have to do drastic things these days, right? You have to really look at this indoctrination. You know, like I said, Wall Street and the elites, they take like the four main things that human beings need to live life: food, water, shelter, healthcare, and they profit off of all four of these needs to the point where they keep you a working, poor, I don't want to say slave, right? But they keep you working poor like a peasant, right? That's what they do. And this peasantry is it's gonna be the future of our country. So all of these people that you see in that trucking video that I made, talking about, oh, that's horrible advice to live out of the truck. No one should live out of the truck for 25 to 30 years. You know, what about a social life? What about this? What about that? When I specifically pointed out in that video that you can live in the truck and still have those things. You can live in the truck and still have a social life. You could live in the truck and it doesn't have to be torturous. It doesn't have to be like this dark, lonely existence. No, man, you still have things like PTO, a 34-hour reset. You're making enough money to where if you use all your PTO in the year, you could still talk to your dispatcher and say, hey, look, dispatcher, every 3 to 4 months, I'm going to take like a week off every 3 to 4 months so I can go out and do things. And if you work with me here, I'm going to stay with you for the next 25 to 30 years, right? You got me as a whole career, right? And live in the truck. The reason why a lot of these people are going to end up with nothing, and a lot of these truck drivers, even the ones that are making like $100,000 and $120,000, a lot of them are going to end up with nothing because most of their money that they get, it goes out in bills. And the way that our country's going these days, is you need to really be taking that money that people spend on rent, bills, and all that, and that's what needs to be going into your retirement funds, your investments, okay? Into things that are going to grow your money percentages each year. So the difference, like I said, as we go into the future, California is going to be the future of the United States. You're going to have the ultra rich and just the working class poor, right? To the point where people they're gonna be fully employed. This is what goes on in California. You have people that make $100,000 that still can't afford to live nowhere, and they're living out of a car. Okay, that's like the norm in the Bay Area. And if they do get housing, they're renting out a room. Like in the Bay Area and New York City, your room is like your apartment. You know what I'm saying? And the kitchen, the living room, that's like a shared common area. It's like you're living kind of like this weird communist lifestyle where people have to come together as a commune like strangers off of Craigslist. I mean, that's how a lot of people live in New York City and San Francisco. And that's going to be the future of the United States, even in like the middle of the country in the South as we get older. So the reason why that's going to happen is because people, they get trapped into this American life. Like I said, Wall Street, they profit off of the four needs that you need as a human being to live life: money, water, healthcare, shelter. Right? Money, I don't know, food, water, shelter, and healthcare. They profit off of all four of those models. That's why we don't have things like universal healthcare, but we fund all these wars and just pretty much fuck off all of our money that comes out of our check. We could afford universal healthcare, but we give it to other countries like Israel, Ukraine, South America, these countries that don't give a fuck about us, but we just give it out to them, right? That's your universal healthcare. That money that comes out, that FICA, that Social Security, that your healthcare that you pay for, that's the money that comes out of your check that gets, shipped out to other countries and just spent on stupid shit that really needs to be spent on the people, but it gets spent out into other countries, right? Because like I said, the elites, they profit off of these four things that people need to live life: food, water, shelter, healthcare. So that's your healthcare, right? Shelter, that's, everyone has this idea, like I did when I came into trucking. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna live in the truck for 2 to 3 years, and then I'm gonna go local. And then once I go local, then I'll be able to like get a really good LTL job or food service or tanker or whatever. And then I'll be able to like afford a house. And let's just say I got hired at a really high paying local job, right? Living in the truck is, even working at Swift, living in the truck, you're gonna be better off, because these guys that brag about making $120,000, right? They're not seeing that. They're really only bringing in like 50. Half of their income that should be going into their retirement accounts is going into their living expenses. And that's the reason why these people are not going to be left with anything. Let's say they pay off their house. You know what's happening to a lot of old people right now with the paid off house that are living on Social Security, and because people are living longer. When you get older, you have health problems because they're not able to work no more because they're too old. They need to do things like borrow on their house, to where now they're back paying off a debt from their house, from their paid off house. That's going to be the future of a lot of these people. But the difference is, back then, is at least the old people, they made a lot of capital gains on their houses, because when my grandpa was older, he bought his land for real cheap and built his house for real cheap compared to what's going on today. I think his house is worth like $500,000 or something like that. So he has like cushion because he's made a lot of money on his house. We're coming into the market today as homeowners, right? If you're buying a house today, you want to buy a house today, you're going to buy a house that's like $400,000 to $500,000, $300,000. And the chances are, dude, you're probably never going to pay it off. You know what I mean? And when you do pay it off, that's when your health problems are going to start. And you're going to have to, borrow on your house, right? That's how they profit off of shelter, food, inflation. You can go on TikTok and you see all these videos of these people complaining about, oh, these food prices, I can't afford to feed my family. I go to Costco or Walmart or Safeway or Kroger or whatever, or Aldi, and it's like half of my income all month is being spent on groceries, right? I couldn't imagine going out to eat. Water, that falls into groceries, right? So the elites, they take these four things that people need: food, water, shelter, healthcare, and they profit all of it. And they profit off of it, and they make you think that you need to buy a house, right? Especially as a man. Like, they really work on a man's ego to benefit them. You have to ask yourself, who benefits from you getting locked into a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, right? At a high interest rate on a house that's already overvalued. Dude, I'm sorry, bro, but have you seen these houses in the United States? A lot of these houses look the same. You know what I mean? They're not all that for the price that they're being sold for. Really think about this. Really think about this. So you've been indoctrinated and brainwashed so much by Wall Street. You're gonna tell me a $400,000 to $500,000 house in America is like a 2 or 3 bedroom house? That's supposed to be a fucking mansion, dude. In a lot of parts of the world, that is a mansion. But here in the United States, it's a 30-year mortgage that takes most of your wealth. Just imagine, okay? Instead of putting that $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 into your house that you pay off, if you put that into an index fund, you would be a multi-millionaire, okay? Especially if you lived in the truck and you opted out of this indoctrinated lifestyle that most Americans get sucked into, that takes up most of their wealth. If you lived in the truck, an alternative lifestyle, like I said, if you want to get ahead of most people in America, you have to do things that most people are just not going to do. Most people are not going to do these things because they've been brainwashed into a life that serves the upper class. Who's benefiting from these 30-year mortgages? Wall Street, right? These investment banks, right? They make money if you pay off your house, and they make money if you go bankrupt and your house forecloses on. Either way, they're making money. Either way, you're making money for Wall Street. When you go to work and you save up for that down payment to buy a house, the ones that really benefit from that, it's not really you, the homeowner. It's not. It's Wall Street. You look at an average American street in a neighborhood and look at a house, look at a block. On this block, there's like what? Let's say there's 10 houses on each side, and they're all going for like 400,000 on average. You do the math. Who's benefiting from that? This whole neighborhood's like that. The whole country's like that. Who benefits from that? Wall Street. And they they brainwash you into getting into these outrageous loans that benefits them, that keeps you working for them, right? And then when I come on here and I tell you, look, don't do that. You don't have to do that, right? At least not right away. You could delay it for at least 10 years. Like I said, I'm not saying don't get married and have kids. I'm saying live in the truck for 25 to 30 years. And believe it or not, guys, there's guys that do that and they're married with kids, so I don't know where you guys are getting this idea from, that I'm telling you not to live your life or whatever. No. I'm telling you that our country is different. It's changing. It's expensive. And if you want to grow old and be a Walmart greeter when you get old with no health care, with no savings, if you pay off your house, you're going to borrow from your house when you need surgeries, when you need to get seen by the doctor and your health care doesn't cover it fully. You know what I'm saying? And you can't work because let's say you're on Medicaid, if it's still around, right? You can't work because then you'll get kicked off your Medicaid. No. You need to do things that most people are not going to do. And trucking is an alternative lifestyle. It's really an answer to it's like one of the last things that you could do in this country to really get ahead to where you don't end up like everyone else. Instead of getting locked into a 30-year mortgage, right? That's going to take up most of your investment throughout your career, right? Because let's say a house is $300,000 to $400,000, right? Which is the average. It's not just that, dude. You still have maintenance, property taxes, upkeep. So the house is really probably $700,000 on average. So you take that $700,000 that you're going to spend on like one of the 4 things that the elites use to profit off of. Let's say you spend that instead of putting $700,000 in a 30-year fixed mortgage that Wall Street has set up to keep you working poor to benefit them. No, let's say you benefited yourself. In an index fund, you don't have to come up with a down payment for an index fund. You don't have to worry about buying a new roof for an index fund. You don't need to have to worry about going grocery shopping for a big family on an index fund. You don't need to worry about buying a soccer mom van for an index fund. You don't need to worry about fixing the crack in your driveway for an index fund. You don't need to worry about replacing your toilet when the O-ring goes out on an index fund. You don't need to worry about buying a new refrigerator, washer, dryer, stove, upgrading the kitchen, fixing the doors, fixing the windows when they start to leak or whatever. You don't have to worry about none of that on an index fund. So you take that $700,000 on average, which a house really is, with the upkeep, and you spend it on your retirement. Dude, let's say you're making $90,000, right? And you live off of half of that. You live off of more than, like, less than half. You live off of $40,000 and that $50,000 for the next 20 to 30 years. You spend that on your index funds, maxing out the contributions to your 401k, to your Roth IRA, right? You will retire with a net worth around $5 to $7 million, possibly $8 million. You know what I mean? And so when you're in your 60s and you're going to retire, when you're most likely going to see some health problems, even if you take care of yourself at the bare minimum, your back's going to start going out. It is. Don't think that it's not. Your back's going to start going out. Your joints are going to start going out. You're going to start feeling pain because you're a human and your body ages and you get old, right? You got $5 to $7 million that you don't have to take all of it out. In an index fund, you get these things called dividend payments quarterly. Every, what is it like? 4, 8, 12. Every 3 months, I think a quarter is, right? It's 4 quarters. 3, 6, yeah. Every 3 months, you get these dividend payments, which is a form of a pension. Now, let's just say your index fund is worth about $3 million. That's a pretty big dividend payment every 3 months that you could pretty much live off of, plus whatever cash you have saved up. You know what I'm saying? Because you've been investing $50,000 into your retirement and pocketing the 40. And, honestly, you should have been putting some of that back into your index funds too. And while you're living in the truck, you don't need to be like this depressed loner truck driver. No, dude, look how much money you're making and you're living in the truck. And like I said, I pushed regional. I'm not saying to run OTR. I'm not saying to stay out there, dude. Like this account I'm switching to, I thought I was going to be out like every week, like every 2 weeks. I'm going to be home every week. It's pretty much set in the same location. It's regional, but I just go up north one state and that's it. And that's on occasions. I'm mostly staying within the state of California, but like running hard within the state to where I'm living out of the truck. You feel me? Like if I do that, and if I could average my take home of $1,500 a week, dude, I'm set for the next 25, 30 years just living in the truck. And it's not in this city. It's one up north. You know what I'm saying? It's just one town over. I'm still here. I ain't went nowhere. I'm just living in the truck though. You know what I mean? I'm getting California income, living in the truck, and not giving all of my money away to rent and bills because I'm choosing to embrace the alternative lifestyle in trucking that's going to set me ahead financially ahead of other people. But when you tell people to do this, all of a sudden, some people get really upset. You know why I think some people get really upset? Because I think when I talk about the struggles of life and the cost of living crisis that people face every month, these people do that make $120,000, and they talk about how they got like a nice car and a house and a wife and kids, right? And they got everything paid for, and you're a loser because you don't have none of that in your 30s or whatever. What they're not telling you is the stress that they go through every month keeping up with that. It's stressful, dude. It's stressful. You know what I mean? They get their check, and dude, they're really, after all their expenses, they might have like $1,000 left over, and that's not a lot for an emergency. That's not. And if they get sick and they can't work anymore, what this Wall Street indoctrination does, what this American dream indoctrination does, is it straps you down with all of these liabilities around, right? To where if something happens, you're through. Dude, you're done. You're done. You know what I'm saying? And that $100,000, dude, there's people that make $100,000 in other industries like tech, finance, who live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they're living in a car. There's nurses that work at like Stanford Medical and that work in the Silicon Valley and like in the hospitals that pay a lot of money for a nurse or a radiologist and all that. and they're at work living in their van in the parking lot in a car because they still can't afford it out there, right? Those people, if they keep up doing what they're doing, they're getting California Silicon Valley income and they're living in their car, they're going to be fine when they get older. But everyone else, right, that need that, you know, because of their indoctrination, do they need these things? And, you know, like I said, they're normal things that people would want. People want to have shelter, right? People want to have an apartment. They want to have a car. But dude, you have to be honest with yourself. A lot of those things for a lot of places in the country, they're not attainable. And if they are, that's going to take up most of your wealth. That you're giving up most of your wealth to Wall Street at the end of the day. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, all of this is getting funneled back to the top 1%, the transfer of wealth that you're actively engaged in just by living your life in America, by shelter, healthcare, water, food. Wall Street and the elites, they profit off of all of that. And you're left, dude, I swear to God, when I was in the Bay Area, when I first came home and I was looking for a room to rent, like 99% of the rooms that I saw for rent, it was all old people. It's all old people living on Social Security. And you know what's a trip, dude? When I left the Bay Area the first time, I was living with two of my friends. Well, one homie, you know what I mean? I was friends with the other roommate eventually. But my homeboy, he was in his 50s, living in a room, renting a room in the Bay Area. You know what I mean? That's going to be the future for a lot of people. Because this indoctrination, this stuff that you think you need, I'm here to tell you, you don't need this shit. You don't need it. And the fact of the matter is that in today's society, the income inequality has gotten so bad. The top 1%, they hold so much of the wealth that if you really want to play in this old system that really doesn't exist anymore, and it doesn't exist now, but we're just starting to see the beginning of it. As we move into the future, I'm telling you, bro, I'm telling you, even some of these like old people, like when we get old, the old people who like have a paid off house, they're going to be a prisoner in their own home. And if they get sick, yeah, they're going to have to borrow on their house, and then they're going to have to owe that back to their house. And you know what's going to happen because they're living off of Social Security and they ran through all their savings? Because like I said, throughout their life, paying off that house, paying off the bills. You know, the average price of a home really is close to $1 million. Once you take in, you know, the average house is like $300,000 to $400,000 in the United States. Plus, throughout the time of you living in there, with shit breaking on the house, you having to buy things like a new roof, fix the driveway, just fix shit in the house, your property taxes, homeowners insurance, all that shit. Once you factor all that shit in, dude, unlike you, I've been living in the truck, and that money that you spent on your house, the American dream that you've been indoctrinated into, I got all that invested in index funds. I got all that invested into my Roth IRA, my 401k, my index funds, maybe like 2 or 3 of them, right? And I'm making money with Wall Street. You're giving money to Wall Street. You see the difference? And trucking is a way to opt out of all of that, right? And to end up on the other side rich, while everyone else is going to be poor, dude. It's going to be poor. Dude, when I made that video telling people to live out of the truck, a lot of these people, I had people that they got so offended. Like, oh, if you're young listening to this, disregard this advice. This is horrible advice, living in your truck. These are the same people that they're going to put away close to $1 million of their investment throughout their career as a truck driver in living this American dream. Because like I said, let's just take it a step forward. It's not just the house. It's also the cars, the insurance, the gas, the maintenance on the car, right? All of this shit, dude. They're going to put away throughout their 25 to 30 year career as a truck driver, they're going to put away around $1.2 million that they could have had invested in the market, spread out between a 401k, a Roth IRA, and like 2 or 3 index funds. That's all going towards, oh, that's no way to live life in a truck. No, make $120,000, do an LTL, hazmat, specialized freight, which is good, but where they're making a mistake is, oh, no, you could easily go home every night. that money that you're going home every night, that money you're spending on going home every night, I got it in the market. It's making me rich. And like I said, while I'm in the truck, it doesn't have to be like this lonely, sad existence that a lot of you guys are 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 still talking about. You know what I mean, dude? You know who I get a lot of like motivation from, honestly, is a lot of these female truck drivers, dude. They're out here making money, dude. And a few guy truck drivers, like there's this one dude that runs flatbed up and down I-5 from, I think, California up to Oregon and Seattle. You know what I'm saying, dude? These motherfuckers, dude, they're making money. They're living in the truck. And these motherfuckers are always going shopping. And when like I said, they're doing exactly, I know what they're doing because I did it when I started my trucking career. When I was living in the truck at CR England, I always had hella money, dude. I always had a couple grand stacked up. My credit, all my debt was paid off. I paid off like $17,000 worth of bad debt in like a span of 6 months, really hammer it down on it. One was a car loan that was in default, right? And outside of that, dude, it was fucking weekends in Pismo Beach, weekends in Santa Barbara, going shopping, dropping a check at the outlet mall, wearing really nice clothes, buying stupid shit like $1,000 per sole frames, like a couple of them, with specialized, like with my personalized prescriptions, with the UV light and the sunglasses effect on them, and all, dude, just all type of shit. Hanging out with friends and family, taking mama out, eating at really expensive restaurants whenever I would come home, right? When I would hang out with some chick or whatever, we're going out having fun. You know what I mean? Spending money, dude. And just not having to worry about money like that. And really feeling secure. And, you know, since I've gotten off the truck, it's like the opposite. Because, dude, the thing about local is, like I said, everyone does the same shit that I did. These are certain things that a lot of people do when they get into trucking. You know, they live in the truck for 1 to 2 years, they get their experience, then they go local. What happens with that is everyone's going after like the few jobs that are, a lot of them are union or whatever. Everyone's going after, or just like these high paying jobs, you know what I'm saying? These local gigs. If you guys knew how many applications these local companies get, you would realize why in a lot of markets, a lot of people just don't get hired onto these companies. And the ones that do, they think it's easy, and they don't realize how lucky they are that they got picked out of the basket of hundreds of thousands of applications. You know what I'm saying? To the point where you have applications coming in from out of state of people that are willing to relocate to a local job just because they don't want to go back to living in the truck. And what happens with that is, you know, they probably get one of these high paying jobs, Cisco, US Foods, LTL, Tanker. They're making $120,000. But like I said, more than half of that goes out in their living expenses. And when these people get old, they're not going to be left with nothing, dude. And some of these like truck driver, vlogger, YouTubers that I follow, I see what they're doing. Yeah, some of it's off of YouTube. A few of them, most of it's from YouTube. But dude, some of these cats that I follow, bro, that don't even have a lot of followers, that don't even have a lot of subscribers, I know what they're doing because I was doing it, dude. I watch these people and I'm kicking myself in the ass. I'm like, dude, that was me 2.5 or 3 years ago, right there at CR England. Like, I'm watching what I was doing. Motherfuckers going out spending money on dropping a check at the mall, fucking going out eating expensive ass food. When they go on vacation, they're renting out like luxurious ass Airbnbs. You know what I mean? Like, they're wearing really expensive clothes. And please believe their credit cards are up to date. Their credit's looking good, and they're putting a lot of money away in their retirement, and they're comfortable in the truck. So these people, I look at them like they're a part of the top 1%. They're living an alternative lifestyle, no different than van lifers. The difference is, unlike van lifers, which a lot of van lifers are down bad, believe it or not, these truck drivers, they're in the middle of their career and they're living in the truck. Think about it, dude, these people are pocketing $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 living in the truck. They're just pocketing this shit. And you see it with their lifestyle on YouTube. Those people, when they retire, They're going to be multimillionaires, dude. You and other people, well, not you specifically, but these people that are telling you that you need to like go rent out a place, you need to go local, you need this, that, like you need all of these expenses. That's the brainwashing right there. And in trucking, like when I got off the truck, a lot of people were telling me, oh, you know, you're not cut out for this. It's an alternative lifestyle. Obviously, this isn't for you. Maybe you should go local. I get what they were saying now. I get it. You know, going local, I finally get it. Being local and like seeing like, you know what, this shit just ain't really working out. And let's say I do get hired at a real expensive job one day. If I really look at the big picture, most of my money is going to be going out in living expenses. To whereas if I just go and live in the truck, I'm gonna be well off because I was doing it when I first started. It's almost like one of those things to whereas you don't know that you have a good thing until you don't have it anymore. Like really think about it. You have to really look at the country for what it is and really look at how brainwashed a lot of people are. And then just, you know, ask yourself, how did this happen? Who benefits from all of this brainwashing? The top 1%. Those are the people pulling strings of society at the top to benefit themselves. And it doesn't matter who's in office, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. No. These people work for Wall Street. They work for the top 1%. They get richer and everyone else gets poorer. And then these people, right? And sure, they're doing something. But what they're really doing is they're forking over money to the top 1%. You hear people talk about the transfer of wealth. The big transfer of wealth happens when people go and buy a house, they get locked into a 30-year mortgage, right? And then all of their living expenses, Wall Street, they profit off of the four main things that human beings need to stay alive, right? To live: food, water, shelter, healthcare. They profit off of all of these, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, these cats that come onto YouTube and they flex like, oh, look at my house, look at all this, right? And then they come in the comment section and talk shit like, oh, don't live in a truck. That's no way to live life. Let's check back in when we're in our 60s, right? And I'm retired from living in the truck with all of this money that you spent not living in the truck, buying a house, rent, bills, all of this money that you spent that you didn't collect interest on in a retirement account. Let's check back then, right? And then let's see who's talking shit, right? Let's see who is like down bad, right? Let's see who has to borrow from their home that they paid off, right? To go see the doctor for like a really expensive surgery for not just you or maybe your wife or one of your sick children or whatever, dude. You see what I'm saying? Right? Let's check back in then and see who really did it right. That 1.2 million you spent not living in the truck, I got that all invested in the market. I'm fine, dude. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be straight, right? And it doesn't have to be this thing to where, dude, these cats that tell you that they live a very sad life living in the truck, that's a choice that they make. Because at the same time, dude, there's cats that live in the truck and they live a really good life. All you have to do is go on YouTube and see some of these vloggers, right? They're out there. Let me see. I got a lot of people hating, talking shit. I really hope I get through to someone. I know a lot of these trolls aren't going to get it. They don't want to get it. What changed in the past week? Okay. Honestly, listening to Trucker Brown. I've been watching a lot of old Trucker Brown videos. And these are things that we all know as truck drivers. If you go watch a YouTuber called Trucker Brown, he's one of the original truck driver YouTubers, right? He ended up getting a stroke. But nevertheless, his advice is things that we all know as truck drivers. But I'm taking what Trucker Brown said and taking it a step forward. I'm like, you know what? Instead of just living in the truck for 1 to 2 years, What if we lived in the truck for our whole career? Who else do you know could put away $40,000 to $50,000 a year consistently into retirement accounts? Besides like a really rich real estate tycoon or like a really rich tech worker who works in the Silicon Valley, who without a college degree do you know could consistently put away $40,000 to $50,000 a year and not have to worry about the struggles of life that people worry about? Rent, mortgage, bills, money, right? And they could live in a way that puts more than half of their salary away for their future. And not just away for their future, it's like they're literally getting rich. Trucking, that's trucking for you. And a lot of you guys that want to disregard this, I'm telling you, as we get older, our country is only going to get worse. The income inequality between the rich and the poor is just going to grow more. It's just going to grow more, dude. And what you see going on in San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, in California, that's going to be happening in Texas. You already see it in places like Austin, Texas. It's already happening in Nevada. There's a lot of homeless people in Nevada. And not all of them are cracked out on drugs, dude. A lot of them are working poor, right? This is going to be going on all over the country, okay? And one way to opt out of that is to really embrace this trucking lifestyle and to truly understand, if I want to get ahead of most people, I have to do what most people are not willing to do, right? And in the end, you're going to see a lot of these people when we get older. A lot of these people are going to be scrambling, dude. They're just not going to be doing good. You, on the other hand, you'll be fine. You'll have 25 to 30 years behind you with more than half of your working income that you've accumulated throughout those 25 to 30 years that has been growing in the market, and you'll leave the trucking industry with a net worth. A lot of people don't leave any industry with a net worth. Most people, especially as we go into the future, most people are going to work until they're dead, until the doctor pulls them off work because they're physically not capable to keep working, right? A lot of people are going to work until they're sick and they're dead. In trucking, you have the option to opt out of that. I'm telling you, you have serious issues. Can't go 3 hours without poop. What are you guys talking about? I wish I could have like a serious conversation. I get a lot of. This is one reason why I stopped going live. It's because I noticed that a lot of the people that want to have a serious conversation, they're more active in videos, and trolls are the ones that usually show up to live streams. But you aren't in debt. How when you don't take care of yourself? Yeah, see, it's just a lot of trolls. Well, maybe we'll have a serious conversation in the replay in the comments of this, right? You said a week ago trucking, but you literally said a week ago trucking, especially OTR, is going to be taken over. Cool. Thank you for a serious conversation. It could be. It could be. We'll have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see, right? I'm going to do it anyways. You're right. I did say that. AI is a threat to OTR trucking, to trucking in general. I'm still going to go for it. I think right now I'm looking at it as this is the profession that I chose to go in. I spent a lot of time in this profession. I'm about I'm like 4 to 5 years into this shit. I think I'm like at 4 years and some change, right? 2025. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm 4 years into this shit, right? And this is the line of work that I chose to go into. And I'm just gonna go until the wheels fall off. When the wheels fall off, I'll come up with something, to sign up for Barber College. Living in a truck don't guarantee you wealth. You can live in a truck and still be bad with money. It's all based on the person. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're right. You could live in the truck. Okay, so here's the thing about what you're saying. You can live in the truck. What happened to me was this. There's stages of getting money. When I first came into some money, it was in Tesla, right? And what kept me stacking money during that time of my life was I was just so busy going to work that I didn't really have time to spend the money like that because I was always at work. And it takes some maturing, you know. This is the reason why it's so important to get money and to keep this money. Because when you get money, it takes some maturing, right? To really be strict with money. If you've been poor all your life and you come into some money, you're going to have this urge to spend this money, right? No, not everyone, but a lot of people who aren't used to having money, it's going to come as a shock. It's going to come as a shock, and they're going to do things like fucking go balling out at the mall, fucking just spend all this money. And that's cool, but you need to make sure you have your finances covered. You need to make sure that you're putting away for retirement. You need to make sure that you're paying off bad debt. You need to make sure that your credit is looking good by paying off your bad debt. You need to make sure that your financial world is in order. And then the money that's left over after that, now you can go have your fun. But still don't have too much fun. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to learn how to control it. It's almost like you get on a horse and the horse just fucking takes off. You need to learn how to control the horse. That's money right there. So yeah, you're right. You could be broke in the truck and still because you're bad with money or whatever. And that comes with just living and learning. You need to learn what it's like to have money, right? That's why it's so important to get ahead of this shit. Let's see. My plan is to do OTR as long as I can. Living in the truck is expensive. I was spending $900 a month on food. 150, 3. Was that groceries or was that like groceries and going out? Hey, factor that in. Let's say you're taking home on average $1,500 a week and you can go grocery shopping and you spend $150 a week on groceries, which is doable. That's what? $600 a month. And if you're going out to eat after that, well, there's your 900. If you could even lower that to dude, even 900, that's doable. If you're bringing in $1,500 a week on groceries, right? You're bringing in $1,500 a week, not on groceries, I mean on your salary. $1,500 a week and $900 a month on groceries. It's doable. You don't have no bills, no rent. You know what I'm saying? I think you could afford that. I think that's doable. That's expensive. You could look at that and lower that. But that compared to a mortgage, insurance, gas, maintenance, everything else that people have, you're doing better than most people. That's what I'm saying, right? My window's over here fogging up and shit. Let's see. So yeah. Is there anything else I could say? Trucker Brown is local dump trucking now. Yeah, but what does that have to do with what he said? Just because he's local dump trucking now. That doesn't mean that what he said before doesn't still hold weight. And let's not forget, Trucker Brown makes a lot of money on YouTube and has made a lot of money on YouTube. And who knows what he's done with that money? I guarantee you he's invested that money, right? That doesn't take away from what he said. What he said still holds a lot of weight. OTR wears on your mental health after a while. You know what else wears on your mental health? Living in a house and paying bills and struggling every month. Either way, those are personal things that you have to overcome. That's life in general. Life in general wears on your mental health, whether you're living in the truck or not. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna disregard these some of these trolls, right? So to someone that's watching this, really take home what I'm saying. All right, a lot of the things that you say you want, that you think you need, you've been brainwashed into these things by Wall Street. Wall Street takes the four things that people need to live, right? Food, water, shelter, healthcare, and profits off of this, and brainwashes you into doing what Wall Street wants at the detriment of you, but you know, at the at the benefit of Wall Street itself. Living in America is a transfer of wealth. When you buy a house, when you upgrade your standard of living and all that, that's the transfer of wealth. That's money going out that you could be spending on your future with Wall Street in the market, but instead, oh, I need to get a house. I need to buy a house. I need to get married and have kids and get the soccer mom van and the pickup truck and all that. And in the end, when you can't work anymore and you're left on like a fixed income on Social Security and whatever the little bit that you have saved up, because most of your money throughout your life has been going out living the American dream for Wall Street, you're going to be left with nothing. Trucking offers you the opportunity to opt out of that, to be like, you know what? I'm going to do what most people aren't going to do, and then I'm going to be where most people are not. You can be a part of the top 1%. You can retire rich. And the younger, the better. If you're a 21-year-old truck driver right now, shit, what's that? 20s, 30s. What? So by the time you're what? In your 50s, right? Yeah. If you're 51, 52, think about that. If you're 21 right now, by the time you're 51, 52, if you live in your truck throughout your 20s, 30s, and 40s, shit. Even in the middle of your 40s, dude, you could retire from trucking a multimillionaire. Think about that. If you're 21 right now and you still have PTO, and the longer you stay in trucking and the more money you have invested and saved up, and you get used to living in the truck, dude, you could still have things like a girlfriend, hell, even a wife, right? You can still go on vacations. And the difference is when you go out on vacations versus everyone else, you're going to have all this money stacked up. You're going to have all of this money stacked up. So you're going to be able to go on like very extravagant, luxurious vacations that people spend all year for, if they could even afford it. You're not falling into this brainwashing, this indoctrination that everyone else is falling into, which puts you ahead of a lot of society, even while you're living in the truck, right? You're going to be able to do things that most people are just not able to do, okay? Think about that. Think about that. Before you start thinking that you need A, B, and C, think about the big picture. Who's benefiting off of A, B, and C? It's not you. You might think that it's you, but it's not you. You benefiting from a house, Wall Street benefits from that. Living the American dream, Wall Street has it set up to transfer the wealth from the working class up to the top 1%. Trucking gives you the opportunity to become a part of the top 1%. If you utilize the main thing that trucking has to offer, that sleeper, it will turn you into a multimillionaire, dude. It's an alternative lifestyle that, as you could see in this live stream, a lot of people they're so heavily brainwashed that they're not going to embrace that alternative lifestyle. I mean, do what you want with your CDL, but I think, in my opinion, it took me up to this point to really understand the real benefit of trucking, right? It's to embrace the trucker lifestyle. That'll make you really rich. Be sure to smash the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm repeating myself, and we're at the hour mark, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off right here. Maybe check, are some of these comments worth reading? I invested well. If I could get 8 more years, I'll be able to retire at 48. There you go. There you go. Not all drivers make $1,500 a week. Well, yeah, not all drivers are good at their job, right? A lot of drivers suck at their job. For a long time, I sucked at my job. You know what I'm saying? If you suck at trucking, you're not going to make that much money. In trucking, it's just like any other profession. You need to work hard, right? You got to be the right kind of person for that. Yeah, you know, as you could see, a lot of people aren't. Most people aren't. You know, when I started trucking, I was in the beginning, but I was just like these people. You know what I'm saying? That's why I got off the truck. It took me getting off of the truck, bumping my head, coming back local to really understand, like, okay, I'm gonna get my ass back in that truck, you know? This is life. This is life, dude. You live and you learn. You live and you learn, but you have to learn. If you're out here just living and you're not learning, that's the problem, right? If you make a mistake, if you learn some shit, learn from it. Don't be so hard-headed to overlook these things that you learn in life. Like me, I went local, bad move. Bad move going local. I'm getting my ass back in that truck, right? And I'm gonna stay in that truck for the rest of my career, and I'm gonna stack this money. And the vlogs are gonna reflect that. I can't predict the future, but I got an idea that my vlogs are gonna start to resemble the vlogs I did when I first started, when I was wearing like real expensive clothes. Every now and then I was taking you shopping out at the mall or whatever, right? Every now and then I was going to like what? Weekends in Pismo, Monterey Bay. And even before that, I was doing a lot more vacationing before I started this channel. When I was at England, dude, it was weekends in Santa Barbara, weekends in LA, weekends in Long Beach. Like, I grew up in the Bay, and before I started trucking, I never really explored Southern California like that. So my first year in trucking, dude, I was all over LA, right? I was doing a lot of 34-hour resets at the CR England Colton Yard and hopping in the rental car and going down to San Diego, La Jolla, going to Santa Monica, Venice, Long Beach, and, you know, parking the truck right there at AG, Arroyo Grande, and then taking a Uber over to Pismo Beach and staying right there on the coast in like these really luxurious hotels, dude. And like eating out, you know, getting food delivered to the room and shit, dude, like really living life, you know what I mean? I wish I could have documented that in the beginning trucking before I started my channel. Then y'all would have seen, but like, damn, check out this dude. He's pretty much living van life, but he's like a baller, right? I'm thinking that's what's gonna come back to the channel, because I'm gonna go back to living in the truck. I'm gonna get rid of this funky ass car that's taking up a lot of my money, right? I'm gonna get rid of this shit. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where the channel is gonna go back to with the vlogs. The vlogs are gonna get a lot more bougie. There's gonna be a lot more money involved in the vlogs, right? You guys are gonna see, like, I'm gonna try not to flex hella hard on y'all. You feel me? Like, I'm gonna try to not come on here and be like some fucking asshole like Donald Trump. I'm not gonna try to come up here and not like really shit on you guys like that, right? I'm gonna try to come up here and not be like, oh yeah, look how dusty you guys are, right? I just went shopping, right? Look at all this like expensive clothes that I bought, right? I'm gonna try to not do that. I'm gonna try to like not, you know, be at the hotel on the coast with like the gourmet dinner and shit, right? I'm gonna try to like not turn on the camera and be like, ha ha, you little loser. I'm gonna try not to do that, right? I'm not an asshole like that. But I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna show you guys to be like, hey, Look what you're missing out on. I'm out here living life. I'm out here living life, son. And you guys are over there like down bad. Oh, because I need an apartment. I need a house. I need a car. Right? Not to mention, please believe, when all of that is going on, there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be invested too. Just like when I started this channel at CR England, dude. When I started this channel at CR England, by the time I started this channel, I remember, I started this channel, right? And I think it was like in my first or second video, my old shitty video, I was talking about how I just got done paying off $17,000 worth of bad debt. And I was living in the truck. I was living in that truck, you know? That's when I started this channel, when I just got done paying off all that debt, dude. That was such a good feeling, paying off all that debt. Right now, I'm in like what? At the most, $2,000 in credit card debt right now. Not that much, right? And that'll get paid off within like a month or two, right? If I'm aggressive, I could pay it off in like 2 weeks when I get back in the truck. Then after that, you'll see. You'll see. You'll just see. You'll see within the vlogs, right? And I don't know. We'll see what your guys' reactions are going to be. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to come on here and really like stun on you guys too hard and make you feel like I'm trying to make you feel bad if you're down bad, if you're broke. I want to kind of do it, not even as motivation, but just kind of document what's going on when you embrace the alternative trucking lifestyle and don't pay rent, don't have a car. I'm getting rid of this thing, right? Don't have insurance, right? I'm just going to document what life is like when you're living on the road. Well, me, I'm going to be stationary. I'm going to be regional, right? When you're living at work, when you're living in the truck on a truck driver's salary, I'm just going to document what that's like. And shit, this coffee, dude. I'm over here burping. And you guys are going to see. You guys are going to see, just like you did in the beginning of this YouTube channel. Let's admit, since the beginning of this YouTube channel, since I've came home and I've been local, haven't I been down bad? I know I'm down bad. I'm the one living it. I know I'm down bad. But I think this part of like the channel where I'm like down bad, you know, I think like this whole thing of being like dusty, being down bad, I think that's going to come to an end. And yeah, you guys will see it. Be sure to smash the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and when you're hitting the weights. When I'm hitting the weights again, soon. I'm gonna get back in that gym, right? One reason why I haven't really been hitting the weights like that is my diet has been, it's not too bad, right? But I don't really have access to a kitchen right now. You know what I'm saying? I know that's not an excuse to not hit the weights or whatever, but once I get back in the truck, everything's gonna be better. Everything's gonna be way better. And I'm gonna document it, right? And I hope by what I'm saying now and the vlogs moving forward, it'll show you what the trucking lifestyle could really provide. And it's gonna be no different than the shit you see on some of the, not all, but the shit you see on some of these other YouTube channels where you see some of these YouTube truck drivers really living a good life and it looks like they're balling, like they got it like that. You'll see it right here too. You know, I doubt I'm gonna, who knows, maybe you blow up or whatever. I just hit 11,000 subscribers, thank you. But yeah, you'll see it. Be sure to smash the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel. I gotta go. It's fucking, it's all hot and humid with my hot ass breath in this car.